For the past 10 years, I've been conducting expeditions, documenting chronicles, and interviewing people pertaining to the subject of Sasquatch. With over 20 years worth of hardcore backcountry expedition experience into the most remote regions, I've tracked and studied various North American species that have had little to no exposure to civilization. I am a student of many disciplines, trained in the art of tracking by a Cree Nations elder and a military sniper. My skill sets include camouflage techniques using the terrain and its features to mask ground movement, survival, evasion, and escape techniques.
I've been able to see for the first time some complete segments of Todd Standing's filming of Sasquatches, and I'm firmly convinced that he has filmed Sasquatches and that what he has portrayed in his documentary are indeed very close portraits, in fact, of the Sasquatch face.
Good day, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to my Saturday video. Very excited for this topic. I tell you, Washington State and the Pacific Northwest, especially Washington State up into the areas of British Columbia, Alberta, down into Montana and Idaho. That's my home range. I'm so happy. I love these areas. And there are definitively Sasquatch there. Today's topic specifically is a former police officer who has a conversation on the phone with me just about some tremendous, incredible sightings that he's had. Very, very impressed with this gentleman. It was wonderful talking to him. And I just wanted to quickly say, definitively, there's Sasquatch in Washington State. There's some stuff going on right now where there's some Washington transports releasing some footage, and we know about protection in Skamania, Washington, and you're not allowed to. They acknowledge them in Whatcom. I'm telling you, people, for those of you who aren't aware, for those of you who live in big cities and whatnot, the people of Washington State and the small towns of British Columbia, in these Sasquatch hotspots. They're hotspots for a reason. These people know the species exists here. That's why there's, again, protection. You can't shoot a Sasquatch in Skamania. It's a law. It's amazing. It blows my mind when you go into these smaller towns, you meet these people, and they all just know it. They all just accept it. And these are the indigenous people. Even we've gotten to the point where us white people, I mean, we've been here. I'm fourth, fifth generation Canadian, fifth generation now. And it goes that way into the United States. We're indigenous people now. We live here. This is our home. And even if you go into the technical term indigenous peoples for the Native Americans and the First Nations people, and they've been here for, tens of thousands of years, and they all know the species is real. I'm just trying to push this point across to you people. There's so many researchers, there's so many amazing people. Washington State is really an exception. I'm just so astounded by the amount of research that's going on, the amount of incredible data that we're receiving from this area. And I feel in my heart it's most likely Washington State, so I'm really proud to be talking about Washington State today with this gentleman, because I really think that is very likely to be the spot. That is very likely. The people there are so open to it. It's filtering down into fish and wildlife, into the justice system. A judge made a law to protect Sasquatch in Skamania, Washington. So I feel, and I have high hopes that Washington State will really be the key to having this discovery move forward and accepting the reality of this amazing species. So enjoy this video today, and we'll have some more amazing, fantastic stuff next Saturday. Thank you very much for tuning in.
It was a Friday night, and my buddy switched my key over too far to listen to the radio, so the battery was dead on my truck, so technically we were stuck there. But the ice, there's all of a sudden this bluish green eye shine comes up because we're looking back down the gravel road that led to the spot we're in. And all of a sudden the big set of bluish green eye guys pop up, and then now these smaller ones right beside it again, just like I had seen before. Mm-hmm. And that was all I could see. And then you could see it cross the road. Because it was looking the whole time towards the trucks. I could see the eyes. The bigger one did it. The little one stayed over on the right side of where the road was, because it kind of angled up towards it from just the slope of the grade. Mm-hmm. And it walked up, and you could just see it getting closer, and it got probably from where the front of my truck would be, I'd say within 20 yards. And it was just moving its head up and down. You could see the eyes kind of bouncing up and down, it was bobbing its head up and down, trying to get a better look at it, look in or something. Mm-hmm. And then it turned away, so I couldn't see the eye shine anymore. And then I got to this one point, and it turned, and I looked back so I could see one eye, and then it climbed up this big rock wall thing that I took pictures of, and actually had like a track with scales that had a couple of $5 bills. That was after we got back up there the next time. And then there's that, and you could see it go up around. It was up around to our left now, but then it was weird because you get like off, then all of a sudden off to my right, there's like, oh, my 3 o'clock, like my buddy said he could see because our fire was dying, and he said he saw like kind of like the bottom part of a black figure run by like the backside from where the firelight was. And then all of a sudden it was weird, like first there was a whistle. It was like, I can't whistle, but it was just a quick little whistle to try to get like, turn like your head to the right, because they're trying, it was like the way I have my truck parked, and I have like pictures I can show like the trail they're trying to get to and stuff, but I parked my truck to kind of block it so bear or cougar wouldn't come. And then it just happened to be like the area where they're trying to get around. But they're basically like around our campsite and in our campsite and like around my truck. One was trying to figure out like how to go around, and one was off to the right. First it whistled, then it threw something like, it threw or tossed something kind of really small because it hit the back fender of the passenger side of my truck, you know, but it wasn't anything hard. Cause I mean, I know I played sports year round my whole life. I know like for that sound I heard how you have to throw it to make, I mean, this wasn't hard. This was just like a ding, you know, to kind of catch your attention. But then so that happened, and they're just like around, and then it was weird. So then it started to get light out, and I'm like, okay, well, they're probably gone. So I get out of my truck, and I can hear up above me, because there was like this little, like, kind of like rock wall part, and there's this big stump behind it. And then there's like tree, like kind of like the tree line up above. You can just hear like rustling, like kind of like a panic movement, you know? Mm-hmm. And I kept my back to it, because I was like, oh shit, this isn't good. So I figured they were gone. And I'm just like, and then I could hear movement further back in the brushes and trees. But then right behind the stump, I could hear something like digging and clawing, like scratching or digging. And I'm like, oh shit. And I just started thinking, I'm like, okay, it sounds like they're like one separated from the rest. And, you know, I'm like, we're technically stuck here and I'm stuck in my truck. You know, we're stuck here. And then my buddy got out, and I'm like, dude, don't look up. You know, I'm like, just kind of hang out here, and you could hear it. I mean, you could hear it like scratch, scratch, scratch. And then, like, I tried to like kind of look back a little, but not like directly. And I could see how like peripheral vision, you know, like, you can see when it's kind of starting to get light out, you can see stuff move between trees, because you can see like the light get blocked away, you know? Yeah. I could see kind of that. But then, so I had my wooden bat that I used for wood knocking. I'm like, hey, let's walk down the road a little bit. And then just kind of show, and and then I knocked on a little tree, and it seemed like from what I heard before, like one knock kind of seems to be like everything's okay, or it's like a locator, like, hey, we're over here. But then like I'd hear 3, mm-hmm. and 3 would seem to mean like hide, take cover or something, or it's not safe. Yeah. Because when I got out of my truck, I remember hearing a quick like a 1, 2, 3 like knock, and then there was the digging and the scratching, and then. So then when we walked down, and I did one single knock, you know, on the tree. And like right after that, from up where the other ones were in the tree, I heard another single wood knock, like a reply. And then right after that, the digging and scratching stopped. And you could hear like, it was the little one, the smaller one. And you could hear it kind of work its way up to where the other ones were. And you could kind of hear them move away all together in a group. And they kind of dropped on the other side of this little like hill, or like the finger of the ridge line was or whatever. And first one of them whooped, and then the other one did a howl, just like how Bobo does, like a roar. Mm-hmm. So they did them like back to back, like almost like just loud enough so like we could hear it. You know, I don't know if it was like, hey, saying thanks or whatever, but like, so we're just kind of standing there. We're like, holy shit, you know. And then we'd go up. You could see where like it had been digging. You could see like tracks everywhere. You could see, and same thing. I'd stopped at freaking Cabela's and stuff. They're like, no, we don't have plaster of Paris or nothing. And then the Walmart I went to, they didn't have any. So we started following the tracks, and we're like following them. Like, I mean, we were probably like 5-10 minutes behind them, because we were just following tracks. And then, you know, then we get down, and it led to this, like, it had to be like where they live, like their like home area, like. There's this big ass like tent teepee shaped structure made out of like tree trunks, And then there's like these two big nests that were like, they're right by each other. And then I have pictures of these two smaller ones that were right by where they were when they were separated. I have these pictures of these two smaller nests, but like these nests were probably like close to almost waist high on me, like probably between knee and waist. But there was there were probably like branches that were like anywhere between like 7 and 10 feet, I guess, but they're, maybe a couple inches in diameter to 2 to 3, not like, but the crazy thing was they were all stripped of bark, and they were like kind of laid in patterns and kind of like kind of almost woven in spots. So they're like these two, and they're right by each other, and they're right by where the little tent teepee thing was, and it was right where this ravine started for where this creek was. And I remember I slid down this part because I wanted to see down below, and I ended up getting kind of stuck. She had to like work our way around the right side, and my buddy's kind of a little bit above me, and we're so if you're looking downhill, we're on like the right side of this, where this ravine opened up, where it's like kind of steep rock wall, like, between us. And then all of a sudden my buddy's like, holy shit. He's like, look. And like, I turn around and you can see all four of them at the same time, like clear as day.
Wow.
Like, and where I'd kind of slid down to try to get where I actually almost fell over. It was the one that was probably like I had to figure it was the male because the biggest, just like doing a quick size comparison, like one was bigger, like three of them were big. One was bigger than, two of them were about close to the same size pretty much. And then one was at least a good head high, tall, like their head size taller than the other two, So like two of them looked probably, I'd say at least like around 7.5 feet. And then the other one was like, I'd have to say at least probably like, 8.5, 9 feet, maybe somewhere there. But like, it was just crazy because like the biggest one was sitting there and it was squatted and I couldn't see its hands, but you could just see like the width of its chest. But that was the biggest one. It was off to my left, and then pretty much straight in front of me, I figured it was a female because it had it was like squatting, and if I had a direct line looking at her, I'd probably be looking at her. If you're standing like, pretty much if it's on your 7 o'clock, like your back left hip, that was pretty much the view I had. She was squatted. You could totally make out, like, the conical shape of the head, the pronounced brow, the nose, like, that way the eyes were kind of sunk back in the head, the pronounced, like, mouth, and then, like, the traps, like, the way the muscles were, like, there's almost like a V where its spine was just because, like, the muscles bulged out, from the shoulders and stuff so much in the back. And it was, like, on the Patterson-Gilman film, like, probably about mid-back down to the top of the waist, the hair was like way shorter and it looked like almost thinner than it was like on the other body, like the rest of the body, because it was like kind of like black. They were all solid black, and she was sitting there squatted, and I couldn't make out like breasts or nothing. But then all of a sudden, the little one was between her legs, and it stepped back, and then it turned facing away from me. So there's a tree right by it. And then it ran, like I don't see its left hand and foot, but it ran probably about a good 20, 25 feet up the tree. And then it was just hanging off the side. It was like leaning off to the side with its right hand above its head, and its arm was just dangling, left arm was dangling down. And you could see, like, on the little one, you could see skin around the eyes and like the mouth area, but on the adults, you could just see around the eyes. Like you couldn't, it had more of like a monkey chimpanzee face, where it doesn't have like the hair all around its mouth yet, The little one was, and then it had kind of, its brow wasn't as pronounced, and it had a little bump on its head, but it wasn't as conical yet. The head shape wasn't, and then you could see it like, you could see more of its finger, like you could see its fingers and its like thumb pretty good, 'cause like, the hair hadn't grown in a lot yet. And then on the female, like you could see, like I could see 2 rolls of skin, like, around like the outside of like her left eye. I mean, I was like that close to make out detail. And then the male on the left, the skin around his eyes looked more weathered, so it wasn't like as like shiny black as the other ones. It seemed almost kind of more faded or kind of grayish a little. And actually on if you went from like the edge of each lip kind of straight down, it had like white gray hair coming in like underneath it, on it, the sides of it, like, you know, underneath like the sides of its lips, like on down the side, each side of its lip. And it was just squatting there. And then off to the right, further down, was another one that was squatted. And there's just, so you could see like all of them. They're just squatted and they're just like looking at us. And then I was like, I remember hearing things where like, you know, I was like, they're like, oh, don't look directly at them or this or that, you know, 'cause it might seem as like a challenge or something. But I was, you know, trying to like look, but like not, you know, stare, you know, or like, and I remember like pointing, I was like, I remember kind of tapping my chest, and I remember pointing down, like, 'cause like, where they were in between the trail where we'd have to get back up to where my truck was and we'd have to go through like their little home area again. And I didn't know, you know, I was like, I don't know how they're gonna, I was kind of nervous when we went through it the first time, 'cause I'm like, you know, they might be super protective because they have a little one. And I'm like, we got to get out through this area. And then we're kind of like forced to work our way, following this creek down the ravine. And we're working our way down, and then like gets to a point before this other creek joins in, and there's like, you know, a confluence. And like right where the ridge line, or right where the ravine was, I mean, these couldn't have been naturally placed, but like, there were like huge tree trunks in like an X pattern, like blocking or to make it difficult to try to get, if you're coming from below up. Like there's like 3 or 4 of them laid like in an X pattern, like pretty much blocking the entrance to the ravine part. And then right where that finger was, where the 2 creeks met, that was like the last daytime sighting. So I remember there was another one like squatting there. I don't know if it was watching us to make sure we left the area or what. But then, so we were just working our way down to the road, and it started getting too dark, and because it was taking too long because the terrain was kind of rough. And so we built a shelter, and you could see them coming down, like, because it was dark. You know, when it was dark, you could see their eyes, and they're bluish green again. They came down, and we were in our shelter, a little shelter, and they just stood around our shelter the whole night, like behind trees, like there's, if I'm looking like down towards the creek, which would be, and then left would be towards the road. The one I think was the big male would probably be at like my 3 o'clock or my 4 o'clock. And then there was one kind of like almost straight behind, I think. And then one kind of off to like my 8, 9 o'clock. And then the little one would be up in the tree. It'd like move from tree to tree. And then like, so you could see its like eyes would be up in the branches in this area. Then it'd like be up and over here. But like, they just like stood around our shelter like the whole night. And I remember I got out to take a pee, and like I just did a drawing I sent to Amanda too, and it was just like I could just perfectly see it silhouetted, one of them through like the, you know, from the sky, but you know, the light behind it, and you could just, I mean, even you could just see like, I mean, it was like no neck, like just the one thing that's crazy, like the forearm, you could have taken like my calf muscle and stuck it on his forearm, and it probably would have been bigger than, you know, my calf. I mean, his forearm was just like huge, and it was like defined, like especially near like the elbow, like just it was way more defined near the top. The hand, like the fingers and the thumb were just like huge, but they just stood around the whole night, I don't know, making sure we're all right, or you know, because of whatever we let the little one. I figured they're like, you know, because we let I'm like, these things aren't stupid, you know, and like like I honestly think, because like, you know, letting the little one go back to him, showing, you know, we weren't dangerous or threatening. And like, I think like they actually kept us safe overnight, because that area I'd seen bear and I'd seen cougar tracks. I know there's, you know, other predators in the area. And then right before it started getting, right as it was starting to get light out, you could hear like, well, I couldn't hear them leave, but like, I think they went through the creek, because then I was on the, you know, when you step on like a big river bar rock, and it slides and hits contact with another one.
Yep.
And it makes that rock to rock sound. I could hear that. So then I'm like, oh, they must be leaving. And they crossed the creek. And when I got up to look, because I wanted to see if I could see them, and I could see like where they came out from the creek, because there's just like, you know, big wet marks on rocks here and there, you know, where, as they stepped after they walked through the creek. But yeah, but I mean, this group was pretty much, like around, like me and my buddy for like a 24-hour off and on for like 24 hours straight.
Wow.
And that was pretty much the last. And then I was going to go back up there. So I wanted to go up and get, you know, pictures of like and the crazy thing was, it was the same old cell phone, the one that had the pictures from the one before. I remember I was taking pictures with scale because I had my buck knife and I'm laying down by the tracks as we're following them, taking prints, and I remember, you know, taking pictures. Then I remember just kind of for a quick, you know, scale measurement, I made 2 fists, put my hands together, and I put them in the middle of one of the tracks, and I measured my hand, and it was like, I think going across was like 7 or 7.5 inches with both my fists, and they weren't touching the sides of the footprint at its widest part. So I could put both fists in the track, and I wasn't touching the side. Like either side, they were like in the middle. And then it was when I saw I saw the mom with the little one. I'm like, dude, I got to get a picture of these. And I remember I had my phone. I remember I started raising it up I started raising it up, and I'm like, dude, this might look like I could be raising a weapon. And is it smart to point at the mom with the little one in the tree, you know? And like, some just kind of, I'm like, I better not, you know? So I'm like, we're kind of stuck in the woods and these things are around us, and I don't need to, you know, make it worse with them on our ass, you know, pissing them off, you know? Because I was like, up until that point, they'd never done anything that made me feel uncomfortable, you know, never made me feel like they weren't like, you know, vocalizing loud, like, you know, throwing stuff hard, snapping, you know, like, I mean, I felt like I was saying when we had our shelter, I felt safer with them around us because I'd seen predator in that area before. And I wanted to go up and get pictures of everything, and then I freaking fractured my heel, and I've been out the last 3 months, and so I haven't been able to get up there. And I just got my cast and my boot off, so I'm trying to get up there so I can get pictures of that living area again and see if, you know, that would have been basically a year ago. I want to see if they're still in the area or, you know, if they kind of moved, because it's up in the elevation. So I know, I was going to ask you stuff. Do you know if they have do they have kind of almost like, not, I don't want to say migratory routes or kind of seasonal routes they follow, like dropping elevation stuff, following food, stuff like that? Or
Yeah, food sources for sure. I mean, especially things, well, berries will be a really big deal. Probably the biggest deal, if you have it, is salmon spawning, right? They'll travel distances to go where there's salmon spawning. So, yeah, and then, you know, following the elk has always been a big deal because elk are large ungulates that are a reliable, large food source, right?
I mean, like where we found all this, it's like, you know, there's trails that people hike, you know, there's lakes that people fish. I mean, they're like right under people's nose and you have no clue they're there. You know, I know what I saw, you know, it wasn't like a quick, you know, it ran across the road at night when I was driving. It's like, you know, I got good looks at these things for like,
yeah,
you know,
a little different
several minutes at a time.
Yeah.
You know, and these things are around me constantly. You know, I was like, this isn't some like misidentification, you know?
Yeah.
Like ever since I had my experience, I've just kind of been diving like big time into it. I'm like, okay, I know these things are out there now, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to learn everything I could. And then, yeah, I remember I sent everything to Amanda, and then, you know, then she sent it to you. So I was like, you know, cool. And I can like, you know, finally talk to someone about it and everything. Actually, one of my buddies, he's Fish and Wildlife, and I think, well, you probably know the name, and I can get it. I actually have multiple contacts in Fish and Wildlife, but, and he kind of, I guess he did all the Bigfoot and stuff on his own, but whenever Fish and Wildlife would, like, get witness reports, whatever, they'd kind of give it to him, and he'd do it on his own.
Nice.
Well, he retired, and then the guy that's taking it over now, like, he was like, as soon as I talked to him, he's like, here, he's like, I'll come meet you, take me up there. I'm like, I don't know who you are. You're Fish and Wildlife. I'm like, I don't know what, you know, you might do, you know, when you find the spot. You know, I'm just not going to, oh, hey, here you go. Here's where this family group lives. Do whatever, you know. I was like, they did me no harm, so I'm not going to do anything that's going to cause them harm. You know, so I was like, maybe if my buddies at Fish and Wildlife vouch for you, maybe. But I was like, I'm not just, hey, here, I'll meet you for the first time. Okay, here you go. I'll take you up to this secret spot, you know, where there's like a family group.
Yeah. So Washington State is just so rich and beautiful and gorgeous. And when you throw in the amount of vegetation and viability of food sources, and then the salmon, I mean, in the area where your Sasquatch encounters were, are there spawning salmon that ever come through those areas?
They'd have to navigate a ways to get, but there's a fish ladder,
Yeah.
the Salk River, and that's got that's got steelhead, it's got dollies, it's got trout.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, there's tons when the salmon run, there's
So you're in a very, very rich Sasquatch habitat, and obviously you're going to have the elk, you've got the mountain lions and the bears. What about wolves? Any wolves there?
That's the thing. I talked not in this part yet, but further up in the North Cascades, like around where concrete is.
Yeah.
Like up in that area, the North Cascades, because that's the one thing I'm talking about. My fish and wildlife buddy, I'm like, hey, because there's actually there's a picture that someone I knew sent to me. They have they live in Granite Falls, and they have kind of those door ring things or whatever. But it's in the back. It was one that they had for their back sliding door or whatever, and they said it was my buddy sent it to me, so it was it got sent from someone to. So it's from someone type of thing. But it showed in Granite, it showed these two wolves on this dude's property in Granite. And I talked with my fish and wildlife buddy, and he says at least 3 that have collars on them have been found pinged up around the concrete area.
Sure.
So they're starting to come over, but
yeah,
I haven't had any. It's just been the one cougar track, and then the black bear, and then the 2 cubs I saw.
Right, and no grizzlies?
No, not that. That's another thing. Way up north, they introduced them again so people could hunt them, and then and then they're like, "Oh wait, you can't hunt them now." So
yeah,
hopefully I haven't seen grizzly down this area.
I'm just morbid curiosity. That's funny. There'll be Sasquatch in places that the wolves have been wiped out and the brown bears are wiped out, and you still get Sasquatch there. I haven't seen an exception though where there's no black bears and there's Sasquatch. So black bears are something that Jeff Meldrum taught me, and I agree with him strongly in my decade of research. Black bears give the potential for Sasquatch to be there. That's for sure. So I would always question that. That would be my primary biological indicator. Would be and the elk too, right? But then I was in California where there is no elk. And there are black bears, and then there's but the deer, the whitetails, and the mule. There's such a ridiculous abundance of those deer that I'm like, well, obviously, deer don't really herd up very well. You don't get you can get massive herds of elk, and if you're a hunter, to skin and work a deer is the exact same amount of work as it is to do an elk. It's just you get twice the meat, right? And elk meat is really just a wonderful, consistent flavor. Deer can be eating different kinds of stuff and taste funny. But when you have that kind of abundance of deer, I mean, deer are not a small food source by any means. You can get hundreds of pounds of meat off of a deer. And when you have such a ridiculous abundance of them, now that people are seeing Sasquatch there, I saw a Sasquatch and had an interaction with a Sasquatch there. And and you were asking me earlier, so I've seen them in Montana. Not quite Idaho. I've been at that sliver at Idaho at the top. I think I was just on the Spokane side of Washington. I saw them there. And then, a few times, one of my pieces of footage people don't know, one of my original pieces of footage is from Washington State, for goodness sake. So a lot of people don't even ask me. My famous video 2 and 3, that's Washington State Sasquatch. That's back in the day, almost a decade ago, where I could just walk. I go hiking across the border. Nobody's monitoring the border between Canada and the U.S. And for me, it was all just about wildlife, right? I mean, you don't know animals, and us people like me, when we go for big hikes and backcountry for days, we don't give a crap about borders. Nobody's messing with us, and the Sasquatch don't care either. So, there's the monitoring between our country's borders, and there's no need to. What the hell? You guys can come all you want. I don't mind. Yeah. And vice versa, So it's all good. But and the encounters and stuff. I mean, it's just so many. It's just so much. Even you go from the superficial, successful encounters where you hear them, and then you go and after you heard them moving around, and with whatever that was, be it wood knocks or whoops or stomping or even running. A Sasquatch, the way they run is like nothing else in the wilderness. bears and everything is quadrupedal. They go prump, prump, prump. That's 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear
Yeah.
boom, boom, when you hear boom, 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 that's a Sasquatch. And then when you get the power and the sound of it and the bass that comes from having a big muscular body with powerful quads and really strong, well-designed feet, the depth that they hit the ground. I mean, when I'm out on an expedition and we'll hear stuff and we'll hear animals move around, and when I tell people that was a Sasquatch, and everybody kind of goes, well, that's pretty bold. Like, I'm telling you, that's a Sasquatch. And we're going to go find that trackway because he just went boom, 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 boom. And I know it's at, like you say, it's at 4:00. Now it doesn't matter what's there, what cliff's in the way, we're going in that direction. I know it's approximately 300-400 yards. And lo and behold, there'll be tree breaks and signs and pressure tracks and that's real substantial in biology. Like a PhD, like my mentor John Bernagel, when he's in an area and he sees a cougar track, he checks there are cougar here. It's as simple as that. Nobody's running around making fake cougar tracks. And it's the same thing to do with Sasquatch. When you're in a remote area and there's nobody around, and especially when you know your tracks, I'm very highly versed. I don't want to say expert, but you're not going to fool me. I've had people make fake casts and try to trick me and stuff, and I understand how an organic Sasquatch foot moves. People have a lot of information, like, people talk about the way they move in line and the size and the width. People have that very superficial information, but I'm telling you, when I get boots on the ground, you're not going to fool me. I'm sorry. When I see a legitimate organic Sasquatch track and I see the movement and the spacing and the weight and other things that I've never told people about, there's still a dozen little things that people that are at the level I'm at know, like John Bernagel and Jeff Meldrum. We got a couple little secrets that we're not going to make public, because when we go out there and we see them, we're going to go, yeah, that's not what happens when this is happening. So,
Actually, that's perfect. I actually got 2 perfect examples, like especially the foot track one, because the thing I noticed, because like with the mid-tarsal break and stuff.
Yeah, it's a joint, not a break. It's a joint.
Okay, well that's just from what I've read. Like, tarsal joint, but sorry, just from hearing the YouTube videos and stuff. But like, I remember like, and this you'll probably be able to like confirm, but like, it's funny because it'd be like the back heel part would be like, it'd be straight, but as it got up like on that arc, once it pivoted, on that the mid tarsal, wherever, whatever, I was like, it would be its right foot, because it just happened to be like it was the one I noticed, but there's like a couple of them. Like the heel part would be straight, but then when it got past like that back half third, like the toes and the other part would be pointed inward a little. I'm like, why is it like the back part straight and then the other part kind of pointed in? And Dr. Milton's like, well, it's probably like when it was walking, it turned to look back. It's like when in the Patterson Gimlin film, when you're seeing it walking and it does that turn to look back, he's like, it was probably, doing that when it turned to look back or something. But like the track thing, it'd be like the heel part would be straight, and then it'd be like right when almost a human would start to get on the ball of its foot, or like right when you start sitting on the front part, it was turned inward a little. So that was just something I noticed.
Yeah.
And then another thing, like when they were around us at night, like there's the closest thing I heard to any type of like, well, there's a whoop and then like Bobo does, but like you could like, I only heard it like once, but it was like the best way I could describe it was like quick whispering gibberish. It was like it was something like that. Like,
this discovery process is long term, right? If we can, start collaborating a little bit and, over the next couple of years, really kick some ass, because I just love Washington State. I actually intend to start doing expeditions, every year, maybe March. I'll come down to Washington, March, April, May, and do 3 months in Washington State. It's going to be my, the snow takes so bloody long to melt up here. Yeah. And so I think, you guys are blossoming really nicely in March and April and May. So, and if I could work with somebody,
it depends on like how much snow and shit we get too. Cause like the elevation I was at, it's between where the lake was down, everything from where the eye shine was probably about 2,700 feet the first time around the lake. And then the whole thing around my truck, and then where they were around my truck, that was probably about 2,500, 2,400, and probably I mean, we basically had to work our way down the road, which ended up being like, we dropped like 1,000 feet in elevation because like, I think the road was like 1,400 or something. So we basically had to drop like 1,000 vertical feet as we were trying to work our way through all this crap.
Yeah. They really exist. They truly are real.
Yeah.
And they need to be recognized, and we need to move forward based on that. The discovery is going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I just want to facilitate it happening as positively as possible. So, you know.
And that was the thing, just like the way, like I'm like, you know, people will be like, oh, that's so like, that's such an, like out there, you know, oh, sure, they're around you for 24 hours and, you know, they kept you. I'm like, you know, but, you know, like, and then you're saying as far as like, you know, looking at these things, I mean, you know, see how like they're interacting around us or with us, you know, type of thing. Like, yeah, like these things aren't animals, and it's like it's an insult to like call them that. They're like,
don't be cautious because I'm an animal. You know what I mean?
Well, but yeah, but I mean, just like as far as like, you know, the ones like, you know, it's not an animal like a bear or a cougar.
Right. They're primates.
Like
they're higher primates.
But it's like, yeah, you could see that like, you know, they do there's like problem solving techniques. They're just like, they're trying to figure out how to get around my truck. They're doing the distraction things, like the whistle, the throw the thing.
Yeah.
You know, like all these like little things, you know, it's like, okay, this is just some mindless animal just come barreling through, you know.
What area,
what
side of Washington are you on? Like you're in northwest Washington?
I'm Snohomish County.
Okay,
so
what's that by?
Everett, Granite Falls.
Okay.
You know, the Navy station is in Everett. So if you go from the Canada border in British Columbia, it goes Whatcom, Skagit, Snohomish County. So I'm the third one down from you.
Okay, well, I know where Everett is.
Yeah, I live in Everett.
Oh, okay, good.
So yeah.
Okay.
And then I've actually had like I can go back like the one. So yeah, the one thing I want to go back like the same area because it's weird, and it's funny because like my best friend is a different one. Like, cause he's the one we'd always go fly fishing. I'd always go fly fishing, and I remember it was in the summer, same general area like where I had this encounter, you know, last year. I mean, it's still probably same. You know, it's up past Granite, then, you know, as the crow flies, probably within 5 miles of each other. You know, from where my sighting happened last year, and then this one happened probably around like 2000 or something around there, because this is when I was in college. So we were going up, like, it was in the summer, like, I want to say like late May, early June, and we're hiking up to go fly fishing. And it's funny because we went like super early because we wanted to get up on the lake when it was like morning. And we're walking through, you know, we're following the trail and shit. And it was where it got to this point, and like, it was weird, like after all this happened, I started thinking back, I'm like, holy shit, that could have been one. Like, we were going, and then it'd have been down to my right, because like we were going on the trail, the slope of the mountain went from top left to bottom right, you know, and we were kind of on the trail. And so it would have been down below for me in elevation, and it was probably about a good, from the sound of it, I'd say anywhere between 30, 40 yards maybe, but like, all of a sudden it was just this loud freaking snap, like just a snap, like the tree, like a tree limb, like snapped off a tree, and it wasn't like, you know, it was, by the sound of it, there was no way I could have done it because the thickness of the branch that would have to make that sound, you know, would be like way too much for me to pull down. I'd say it was a good, you know, it probably sounded like it was a good few inches or whatever, but like, I just remember getting that. It's funny is when I was actually going to school I was going through the law enforcement program, and I was actually had my sidearm, I had my Glock with me, and I remember there was a snap, and then like it was weird because I kind of pulled I had my gun out at like a low ready. I was like, what the? And like, was it a bear or a cougar or something? And it was weird because it was just a snap, and then we'd start, and I was like, okay, and then we started walking, and then you could hear like the footfall. As we were walking, as we walked, it would walk. Then when we'd stop, it would stop. But it was just like paralleling us, like from down below from where the snap was. But I remember you could just hear the footfall. And but every time I would stop, or we'd stop, it would stop. And then I was just like, I remember saying, I'm like, dude, this sounds like someone messing with me. So I'm like, I actually got a gun, you know? I was like, this is a joke. This isn't funny.
Yeah.
But it's just weird because I never, you know, all I heard was a snap. And I remember hearing like, the footfall, and like it was like it stayed just because it was trying to like see down, and it was just, you know, the sun, you know, it was just starting to be, you know, morning, and then, you know, no light was really coming through the tree canopies and shit. So, but it was just like it almost seemed like it was staying just far enough away to where you couldn't see it,
Mm-hmm.
but it was still like paralleling us. It was just weird because I was just like, holy shit, because after this thing happened, I started, that just like popped in my head. I was like, oh my God, that could have been one, way back then too, in like the same general area. Yeah, but no, like now that I've done it, like that's like all I like cool. I'm like, I want to go every night. So I want to go camping, so I can go up and go Bigfooting,
Mm.
So like that's all I want to go. I want to go like just go up and like do it, So or go up to the spot, see if I can. I want to get pictures of everything. I want to see if I can find hair samples and shit.
Mm.
There's little tracks around or whatever,
Right.
But yeah, but I know that's part of it. I want to get the pictures to be like, see, I'm not bullshitting,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just the structure thing. It was, I could have easily, because it was like a tent teepee structure, and it had one entry exit point, and it was like, obviously, like, it was like upside down, basically like a V shape,
Mm.
And, like, I could have, like, walked in, like, straight up. It was like, I could have easily walked in without bumping my head or, hitting my arms on the side. So, like, the entrance for it was, like, obviously for something big.
Yeah.
How often do you do, or like, are you out in the field doing stuff?
As much as I can be is the answer, I would say. Maybe 10 weeks a year I'm in the bush, boots on the ground, way backcountry. So maybe I'll be doing more. I don't know. I'd like to train people. I have a research center now, like the Discovering Bigfoot Research Center, where I want to have a sustained presence there all year. I want to have somebody, if I'm not there, I want somebody else to be there, right? Taking in data, watching where the new breaks are, following the track movements. Even, if nothing's happening that week, I want that, written down. I want all that cataloged and done. And and I'd like to do that obviously in the U.S. too, and Washington State would be my primary spot for that, right? And a research center just means like I just go buy a trailer for $3,000 or $4,000 and put a couple of computers in it and make sure I have a GPS device and then just have people sustainably there, working and getting research in. And so and Washington is probably more important because I'll tell you in the U.S., like I have a senator who's like, you can if you show me a Bigfoot, I'll make Fish and Wildlife come out with you and you can show them a Bigfoot and we can prove the species is real. She's like, I want to be president. And that'll get me to be a president if I'm the senator that facilitated the discovery of Bigfoot. So, I have that kind of connection in Washington. And, and the laws in Washington, there is laws with Sasquatch. You can't shoot a Sasquatch in Skamania, so Washington is like really, really top on my list. You should know. So these are my goals. I need a spot in Washington that we can have sustainable, continued research. And this can, I'm a bolt of lightning can hit, and one guy calls me and says, hey, I want Sasquatch discovered. I got $20 million. Can you go do the research? And I go, yep. And then I go make everything happen, right? So I need to, what these guys like that want, because I have been financed before. I got $400,000 to make my documentary. That's the only reason it exists on Netflix. Is a rich guy came along and said, good, go do it. He only gave me $400,000 and that got me research for 4 years, but and that's another thing when you're traveling, when you're out there, when you're meeting people, hey, I know a guy who's doing, horse research on wild horses because he was doing a seminar about it. And some middle-aged dude came up to him and said, hey, my grandma just died. She left me $5 million. You want $1 million? I love horses. So the guy got $1 million. He's doing wild horse research,
Jesus.
So, but that's when you're out there, when you're doing things like I'm on Netflix, I'm on YouTube, if I'm doing seminars, if I'm talking to people, so all that somebody has to do is come up to you and say, hey, I want Bigfoot discovered. And I go, I can do it. It's a done deal. If I had drones in the air that had thermal cameras, there's no way for the Sasquatch to hide where I do research. It's all pine trees. You can't hide under a pine tree. It's pine needles. I would follow those. If you've seen my movie, when the Sasquatch came around Jeff Meldrum, you fly a drone up in the air, a blimp drone that makes no sound with a thermal camera. That Sasquatch is going to get followed forever. Just keep switching drones back and forth. Now I'm going to watch them hunting elk, gathering salmon, pooping on the ground, getting that poop, seeing the tracks, getting DNA. Like all that stuff is done. It's just going to cost like $1 million. So it's goddamn frustrating to know it's just $1 million, and there'll be a book written, and it'll be like every size, every shape, what they eat, how they move, when they eat it. Like there'll be no more questions. I will be a Sasquatch expert because I will tell you about the growth and how small they are at 5 and how big they are at 13. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That research will happen in 5 years. So that's ultimately is really the goal for me, is to get that happening. So money matters. Without money, you know, if you can't buy wrenches, you don't go work on your truck. Go take your alternator off, buy a pair of wrenches, you know? And that's what tools are.
Like I've went like I like the same thing out of my like own money and stuff. Now it's like I bought trail cameras. I've gone, you know, I've started. I bought like I have these like 3 big Rubbermaid bins where I got them all ready to go. Where it's like this one's got all my casting shit in it. This one's got all my evidence collecting shit in it.
Right.
This one's got, you know, all this in it. You know, but I mean, I'm like, you know, drop of the hat. Dude, my buddy comes over. Throw it in the truck, dude. Let's go up. You know.
Well,
that's like, you know, start biggest thing as far as, you know, doing your own money. It's like, you know, the money thing. I'm like, yeah, it's like I've been having to, you know, it's like buy stuff out of my, you know, spend your own money, but it's like it's on something I want to do, so it's like I don't care.
Sasquatch are real. I don't have to tell you. If you're telling me the truth, you know damn well they're real.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
I know.
Now, if Sasquatch was messing with you, something was going on there. If you phone Fish and Wildlife, they're going to laugh at you and hang up the phone, and that's their goddamn job. By definition, they are the stewards of wildlife. They are responsible for all indigenous wildlife species. So why aren't they doing their job? And that's why I'm suing them. That's why I go to court. But
okay, now here's a perfect example. My Fish and Wildlife buddy, he's the one. He does like he's in the military and stuff, and but he goes down just training things like they'll do qualifications for shooting and stuff. He actually came across it was last year's after I told him about my thing, and he's like, I'm Fish and Wildlife. He's like, I had a Puyallup police officer come up to me. He's like, hey, how do I get? He's like, I want all your guys' Bigfoot reports. He's like, I want to try to narrow in on an area where they are. He's like, I want to go hunt and kill one of them.
Sure.
You know, and that's like.
He can do that.
Hey, if you prove they're real and stuff, then people are like, oh yeah, they're out there. Now we can go get them. You know.
No. It's worse right now. Right now, a wildlife officer, if a man shot and killed a Bigfoot, he threw it in the back of his truck, it had bullet holes in it, he could do whatever he wants with it. He can take it wherever he wants. It's his, because there's no law saying that thing exists. The only way you can prosecute someone for doing something legally, like you can shoot crows all day, they're legal. They're a known species, and there's no law saying you can't shoot a crow until they make a law and legislation that's illegal to kill crows, and if you kill a crow, you go to jail for 5 years, right? So that's why they made a law with Sasquatch, because people were going, you think those big Texan hunters, those big game guys don't know Sasquatch are real? And you know how much you have to pay to go shoot one? Nothing. And you know what happens if you get got killing one? Nothing. If there's no law that says you don't have to wear your seatbelt, you could not wear your seatbelt all day. People say, hey, you should wear your seatbelt. But until there's a law that says it's a $50 fine to not wear your seatbelt, nobody can do nothing about it. So right now, it's the wild, wild west. Laws are put in place for a reason. And I'm telling you...
Do you think that stuff, though, will cause issues as far as, like the timber industry and all that shit, though?
What do you mean?
Like, if you go, like, for, like, you know, like, for doing the Fish and Wildlife and then proving that they're real, well, then wouldn't it go back to, like, effing over all those industries and shit then?
Well, we got to work that stuff out. We can't, the Sasquatch are there right now. We can't be giving them land rights and stuff like that.
Like, I could see that still as being the hurdle as far as them, like.
It is. But right now, the damage, it's worse right now. They build dams, they do shit, they don't give a shit. They're killing Sasquatch by doing stuff on their land and taking away the elk and putting up dams and stopping fish. Like, they're killing the species right now because when you don't acknowledge them, you do nothing to protect them. There's simple things we can do. Hey, don't go through this corridor. The Sasquatch are in there. And people be happy to do that. Oh, the Sasquatch are there at that time of year? Then don't go there. And that's the law. Yeah. If you break the law, you go to jail because you're in shit. And right now, there's no law. It's literally, trust me, the wild, wild west. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks, well, you know, it will do some damage. But much more damage is being done right now. I sat down with Jeff Meldrum and John Benernagel, and when I was doing the first court case, as colleagues, the three of us sat down, and we thought about it for months. We brought all our information, brought all the pros and cons, and we were like 90% recognize them, 10% don't. So 90%, trust us. With John Benernagel, he's been his whole life, and Jeff Meldrum, 30 years experience, and me another decade. And we brought every argument to the table, and it's very clear to us, very, very clear, that the thing to do is acknowledge them first. That is...
Yeah.
primary.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, because you guys have done. I mean, I'm total newbie green into this thing. You know, I mean, this is. I mean, I'd watch before I even had my. I mean, this is before I even had my counter experience thing, but just I mean, I can go back. I can just go through witness my boss at the old golf course when I was going to school. Dude, he was insulting, dude. You know, his dad's you guys can never go down. Just one of my old bosses, he's I've heard him in the woods on our property, around our property when I was a kid and sold, and my dad wouldn't let us go in this part of the woods because he's just don't go there. But but I'd watch the Monster Quest, when there's the Monster Quest Bigfoot or when they break down the Patterson Gimlin film, and I'd always watch all that stuff. So I'm dude, when they're breaking it down, I'm okay, you can't disprove this. Who's the special effects guy, the costume guy? But he's the guy that broke down the Patterson Gimlin film.
Oh, Bill Munns?
Thing.
Bill Munns?
Yeah, Munns.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when he broke it down, he's oh yeah, it's between 7.2 or it's between 7.2 with a margin of error of 2 inches, and when he's breaking it down from the film and everything, it's you can't fake all this, but then it's so I mean, it's something I always followed and stuff and was into, but just not to the amount of when I see it and when all this shit happens, now it's holy.
Thanks so much for that intricate, detailed, fantastic information you provided us with today. So I look forward to talking to you again soon. So take care, and again, we'll stay in touch. We'll stay on top of this research, and congratulations on that fantastic success. And yeah, let's keep moving forward. I'm excited about our future relationship. So.
I'll go. Yeah, I'll talk to you later.